The movie follows a young Mayan man escaping captors who plan to sacrifice him. The story begins with a guy named Jaguar Paw and his crew hunting wild boars. Jaguar joked that the pig's testicles might cure impotence. Then one of his companions, Blunted, ate them uncooked. Of course, he promptly vomited. Then Blunted became upset, and they ended up fighting. Jaguar's father, who observed the incident, quickly interfered, saying that he needed to be able to manage his emotions. Shortly later, another tribe emerged and approached them. Jaguar, feeling frightened, was about to strike but was stopped by his father. The tribe was only passing by since they were seeking for a new spot to dwell after their last house had been plundered. Jaguar was curious to know what really happened to the tribe while his father restrained him from meddling in people's affairs. On the way home, his father asked them all not to talk about what had happened in the forest when they reached their village. When they arrived in the village, their families greeted them, but Blunted was not among them. Instead, she was chastised by her mother-in-law for not being able to bear children for her daughter. The amusing part is that Blunted was immediately sent inside the hut by her mother-in-law to have sex with her wife. Jaguar met his wife and eldest kid, Turtle's Run, as they awaited the birth of a new family member. Suddenly, there was a disturbance outside. Blunted felt his undersur was hot after being slathered with the spice advised by Jaguar's father earlier. Turns out Jaguar's dad, just like everyone else, just wanted to play a trick on him. In the evening, they all celebrated a party, but Jaguar still couldn't forget what had happened in the forest that afternoon until he woke up in the morning because he had a bad dream. Apparently, a foreign tribe led by someone named Zero Wolf had surrounded the Jaguar village. His awful premonition came true. He quickly instructed his wife and children to flee for their own safety. The alien tribes began murdering, kidnapping, and raping residents from the community. Jaguar managed to escape and conceal his family in a well. Apparently, the criminal was aware of what Jaguar was doing. He dashed to block him, intending to kill his wife and child. A fierce struggle followed between them. After successfully killing the thief, Jaguar decided to go aid others and vowed to return to pick up his wife and children once the situation was secure. Jaguar also fought against the crooks. He almost killed one of the crooks named Mid-Eye, but Zero Wolf hastily paralyzed him from behind. Mid-Eye was very angry with him and was about to kill Jaguar. Zero Wolf banned him and threatened to capture Jaguar alive since he had let slip that he had called his father. Zero Wolf exploited this as a chance to kill his father in front of his own eyes. After seeing his father's killing, Midley struck Jaguar in the head, knocking him out. When he regained consciousness, he found himself with his hands bound and surrounded by other detainees. Jaguar remained staring toward the well, where his wife and child were. Zero Wong investigated when one of his employees raised suspicions. Fortunately, Seven, Jaguar's wife, hid in a crevice in the well, ensuring that she and her kid were not discovered. But unfortunately, the rope that had been bolted to go up by Jaguar was caught and cut off by him. This trapped S and her son in the well. Everyone was paraded away from the village. Jaguar became increasingly concerned about the fate of his wife and child. Zero Wolf and his squad only brought the adults, leaving the youngsters alone, which confused everyone. On the way, Jaguar ran across the same man he encountered in the jungle. Zero Wolf had grabbed him and his people. They all proceeded to be pushed farther into the woods. One of the Jaguar group's detainees was gravely hurt and unable to continue his trek. Mid-Eye, who spotted him, wouldn't allow that happen. He forced the man to keep going even when he couldn't. They had to cross a fast river. That's where the children of their tribe stopped following him because it was a dead end. As time went on, the wound of the man named Coco got worse, so he couldn't take it anymore. He lost control and tumbled over a precipice, leading the others to fall as well. They all ended up dangling in the abyss, with the one in front having to hold back to save them from falling farther. Middle EY instantly severed Kaka's bonds and flung him into the abyss. The sound of thunder reverberated, indicating that rain would soon pour. Jaguar was terrified, recalling his wife and child who were in the well. The following day, they continued their adventure. A little girl approached but was sent away by Mid-Eye due to a contagious skin condition. The little girl kept looking at Jaguar, saying that one of them would eradicate all these evils. The further they went, the more terrible things happened, like when they arrived at a forced labor place. They continued to labor despite their thirst and hunger. Then an emaciated elderly man arrived and begged them to murder him to stop his pain. Then they were told to smear blue paint, which would be used as an offering while the ladies were auctioned and traded. Blunted's former mother-in-law was simply discharged. She was also saddened because her son-in-law was treated like an animal offering. The hostages approached a gate decorated with the heaviness of death, implying that they would suffer the same destiny. Everyone appeared cheery and delighted to receive the prisoners, who would make gifts to the gods in order for rain to fall. Finally, they arrived at the top, where they were executed by the executioners and the king, who witnessed it. One by one, they began to be executed, starting with the first person who was stabbed in the stomach. Then his heart was taken, and then someone was beheaded. The body and head were flung down. What a terrifying sight. Jaguar's turn arrived. He had no choice but to resign and accept his fate as he neared death. Destiny seems to have spoken differently. Suddenly, there was a solar eclipse. It was thought that the sun god was filled with blood. After that, the sky brightened again, indicating that the ceremony must stop immediately. The game was not completed. Their sacrifices were led to a field, and they were instructed to flee while stones, spears, and arrows were launched at them. Unfortunately, Blunted died after being shot. Jaguar continued by running zigzags to make it difficult to aim. It turned out that they were still on target. When Zero was about to finish off Jaguar, Blunted, who was dying, tried to help him. Jaguar broke the tip of the arrow and then thrust it into his opponent's neck. Apparently, it was Zero Wolf's child, so he approached his dying son. Zero refused to accept it, so he and his soldiers chased Jaguar into the jungle. During the getaway, Jaguar came across several headless human bodies. He was stunned and couldn't help but tread on the mound of bodies to enter the woodland. Jaguar kept running despite the discomfort in his gut. He couldn't take the anguish longer and went up a tree to hide. A moment later, Zero and his guys arrived. Jaguar felt terrified until his blood trickled down Meidel's back. Jaguar was glad as they went, but he was met by a panther preparing to pounce on him. Apparently, Zero's gang saw the blood stain on Meidel's back, and then they spread to every area in the forest. Finally, they knew where Jaguar was. They didn't realize that he was being chased by a panther. One of Zero's men pursued Jaguar from behind, and he became instant prey for the panther. They remembered the girls prophesied from the previous day, which claimed they would be cursed if they continued to hunt Jaguar, but Zero, who was already furious with him, didn't care. One of his men discovered Jaguar's footprints without realizing there was a snake nearby, which promptly bit him and finally killed him from the snake's poison. Jaguar was hit with arrows and spears, leaving him dazed as he raced towards the river. Jaguar finally ventured to plunge into an extremely steep waterfall. Zero thought that Jaguar would not survive. Apparently, he was still alive and challenged them all to chase him down. One of his men advised not to chase him, but Zero stabbed him, causing him to fall. He accepted Jaguar's challenge, and Zero and his men leaped down, but not all were safe. Finally, Jaguar had to flee back into the forest. Unfortunately, he went into the quicksand. He ultimately made it through everything thanks to his faith. His spirit began to be filled with bravery. The woodland where he grew up became his closest ally against Zero's group. Jaguar approached them with confidence, holding a wasp's nest, which he tossed upon Zero and his soldiers. Meanwhile, his wife, who was still in the well, was attempting to throw a rope so she could climb out. Jaguar began to develop a strategy to fight them. He used a homemade weapon that had been smeared with poison frogs, manipulated their tracks, and then turned around so he could attack them from behind. 7 was almost at the top when the rope fell again, causing her to plummet as well. Jaguar began executing his goal. He was accosted by Midal EY, and a battle followed. After defeating him, it poured, so he had to get to his wife. It appears like 7 will give birth shortly. Before she can, Jaguar must flee Zero's group once more. Zero caught Jaguar off surprise and shot him, causing him to tumble. When Zero pursued him, it appeared like he was hit by a trap placed by Jaguar. In the end, Zero was stabbed to death by the trap. Jaguar returned to the well, which had been filled with rainwater and had drowned Jaguar's wife and child. 7 held her infant so he could breathe as she used all of her strength to bring the baby out. 7 gave birth to her kid safely after going through such a difficult pregnancy. Meanwhile, Jaguar had to flee, being pursued by the rest of Zero's crew. He arrived on the beach. Their attention was immediately drawn to a foreign ship that was going to pull over. Jaguar used the chance to approach his wife and youngster. His heart shook as he watched his wife, kid, and infant safely in the well. As the film concludes, Jaguar chooses to return to the forest with his family and begin a new life. Subscribe and hit the bell for more awesome videos. Thanks for watching.